So I'm going to show you a little experiment here. I've got a bunch of different consoles and I have my KADE Mini Arcade Plus Fightstick set up. This is a Jason's custom Fightstick with Arcade Paradise controls in it. Love those guys. Thumbs up. And right now I have the Wiimote hooked up to the Wii, and I've got the GameCube controller. And we can see I actually have the exact same mapping that the official converter has. I have the official converter as well. I can't tell any difference between it. If I really wanted to, I can also use the arcade controls at the same time. So I can go ahead and play with arcade controls. Not the best game for this, but it does work. And I can actually use buttons from both at the same time. So I can move with one. I'm going to fall off pretty terribly, but I can attack with the console controls and use the input from the arcade controls all at the same time. So they both work. You can also do some kind of strange things if you really feel like it. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a shot with the Super Nintendo controller. Just takes a second and no kind of changes in the configuration. Just ready to go on the fly. Alright, so we have Super Nintendo working on the Wii U. Alright, so that's my first one. So when I'm done with this, just pop it out, not doing any kind of changes to it here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my input. And we have the OUYA. Now the OUYA, I was an early adopter of the OUYA. Just past 1,000 games. Didn't take off quite like I hoped, but still pretty cool and pretty fun. So let's go ahead and pop this into the OUYA, and I'm going to use the GameCube controller as my favorite controller. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in the GameCube controller. Dual analog sticks. Everything's working exactly like I hoped, so no problem. If I want to use this, let's see, also with analog sticks I can choose, let's just use the DualShock 2 on there, turn on the analog mode, no problems at all. So analog sticks are mapped super well, no problems with either of those. So there's the OUYA. We have the Street Fighter. So this is PlayStation 3, Street Fighter 2. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. I can play with my arcade controls. No problem. I can play with my GameCube controls. I can play with my Super Nintendo like I used to play back in the day with my wife. So I'm playing on a PlayStation 3 with Super Nintendo controls. Okay, so, and I still also have the Fightstick that I can do. So, okay, so there's another option. Now, let's go ahead and round out the USB options here, and let me show you another connection that we can make. So this is a Xbox, original Xbox to USB converter cable here. So no changes, just plugging in the converter cable. And what I have here is a Super Nintendo emulator running on an Xbox. I'm just going to pop that in, and I already have my Super Nintendo controller in here. And as I said, the arcade controls still work on here if I want. But original mapping works just fine. Let's go get Yoshi. I don't know if I can get Yoshi. There we go. So this is really what the intent is, but I figured I'd show you some some other derivatives here. All the controls work, and I can pause it. Everything works exactly like it does on the Super Nintendo. But I could be emulating this on the OUYA, on my other Android stick, or multiple other systems. So that rounds out just the USB examples. So I will go ahead and pull that out. And then let's give a look over at PlayStation. So I also have a PlayStation 2 over here. So I can just pop this in and pop this stick in here. AV1, and what do I have in here? Oh, I have Super Nintendo. So I can play Metal Gear Solid 2 with a Super Nintendo controller if I want. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but I can. So I have all sorts of options on what I do with the controller. So there's a PlayStation 2 output. Also, we can do some other pretty cool things. So here's the Xbox 360. So this is a PlayStation 2 to Xbox 360 converter. I can pop that in. I guess I can go ahead and play with the Super Nintendo controller if I want. This is Death Smiles, a nice Japanese shmup. So I can play with the Super Nintendo controller if I want. I can play with the arcade controls if I want. I mean, heck, I could play with the Atari 2600 if I wanted. So, no problem at all. So we saw a quick overview. We did the Wiimote with the WiiU. We did the Android with USB. We did the Xbox with USB. Multiple inputs, multiple outputs. Lots of options.